بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, my dear respected brothers and sisters who are following these lessons. Inshallah ta'ala, we begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity for us to continue in the commentary of the Aqaid of Al-Imam al-Nasafi by Al-Imam al-Taftazani. And we begin by praying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with the understanding, and may Allah increase in our iman and taqwa, and make this lesson as a reason may our sins are forgiven and prayers are answered, and may Allah protect us from all difficulties, trials and tribulations and difficulties in dunya and akhirah. Ameen ya rabbal alameen. So as usual, and before we continue with our lesson today, we will do a bit of recap of what we mentioned in our last lesson. There are a few things that we have to take note from the words of Al-Imam At-Taftazani, and as what I mentioned many times, that the methodology of Al-Imam At-Taftazani in his commentary of Aqaid Nasafiyah, you will find that at times he will have this Q&A format, like nowadays we call it the Q&A format, as though somebody is asking him a question. So this is one of the ways of Imam Taftazani in addressing some concerns or some questions that can arise from his explanation. So let me just give a summary of what we have covered, and before we enter into the book. Al-Imam al-Nasafi, he mentioned that asbab al-ilm, the causes of knowledge, are three. So we have covered the first one, that is the al-hawas, the senses, and now we are in the second part of the causes of knowledge, that is truthful reports. And he divided truthful reports into two categories. Number one is reports that are mutawatir. We call it the mass transmitted reports. We have covered this, and we have spoken about the definition and examples and all these things. And knowledge that is attained by mass transmitted reports is knowledge that is ضروري. And knowledge that is ضروري in the Islamic term, it is knowledge that does not requires you to ponder. It is knowledge that comes to you and immediately you are able to understand. So it doesn't require you to ponder. For you to understand. So this is the nature of mass transmitted reports, and we gave examples like 600 people and it comes to you and they tell you that an event occurred, for example, or many people inform you that there is a place by the name of Baghdad. That's what the author also gave these examples of names of cities and the existence of civilizations of the past, for example. All this are information that has brought down from the generations, and this comes to us, and we believe, and our belief is based on this notion where we do not require much ponderance because of the numerous number of people who inform us, where it is impossible that they can come out with a lie. So this is the first part, khabar al-mutawatir. This is the report that is based on mass transmitted report. And then the second one, which we are in our class right now, which we have not finished yet, it is khabar al-rasul al-mu'ayyad bil-mu'jizat. It is the report of a prophet, a messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is equipped with miracles. So when Allah sends any prophets and messengers to the people, they bring they are equipped with miracles. People will ask, what is your evidence? Why are you claiming yourself to be a prophet of God, that you receive any revelation from God, and so on and so forth? So show us something. Show us the sign. So that is why we find in the Quran, this is the case. The people, when they heard that a person claim any prophethood, what you call it, they will say, فَأْتِنَا بِآيَةٍ إِن كُنْتَ مِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. Bring us a sign if you are the one who is truthful, like in the case of the Pharaoh and and many others in the Quran. So khabar al-Rasul al-Mu'ayyad bil-Mu'jizat. So we have the report of one person, that is one messenger, one prophet, but it is equipped with miracles. So this is another type of truthful reports in the author mentioned. But this nature of a report, it is not ضروري, but it is istidlaali. This is the thing that I explained in last week. Why it is istidlaali? Because for those who heard a person claiming that he is a prophet, he will first will want to ponder whether this person has miracles or no miracles. So when he look at this person and he said that he is a prophet of Allah and he has any miracles, so what we do is that we will combine this claim and with the miracles. Yani we will have this contact. He is saying he is a messenger of God, and he has this miracles. So this miracles is an evidence that he is the messenger of God. So this kind of ponderance is istidlaali. This one the author initially is saying. But at the end of the day, after that it becomes knowledge that is based on conviction. Just like khabar mutawatir, mass transmitted report, we are convinced that last time, for example, there is the Egyptian civilization in Egypt. We are convinced, even though we have not been to Egypt, but because of mass transmitted reports by generations after generations, we have the conviction 100% knowledge and yaqeen that there is such a civilization. Likewise, when we heard the report of a prophet which is equipped with mu'jizat, we also come to a state of conviction. But this occurrence of conviction is by istidlal, whereas khabar mutawatir, it is by ضروري. So this is basically the difference between mass transmitted reports and reports that what you call it come from a prophet who claims a man who claims prophethood, who is aided with mu'jizat. So the first instance it requires ponderance, but after that it becomes conviction. So both are based on conviction. So this is basically what we mentioned in last week. So today's lesson also I will just summarize first before we enter into the book, to make it easy for all of us, so that we are not confused or anything. So now the author goes on to speak about khabar mutawatir, khabar al-mutawatir. So now he said that khabar al-mutawatir, that's what we mentioned, it is ضروري, correct or not? 600 people inform you about an incident, you come into the conviction, and there is no, you do not ponder whether this report is true or not, because of the impossibility that all these people, mass number of people, hundreds of them, are informing you about a particular incident. You come into a state of conviction without any ponderance, because of the impossibility of them lying. So the author goes further to speak about the difference between the nature of the report and the contents of the report. Let me repeat this again. For those who are following, you might want to write this down. So we have the what you call it, the transmission of the report itself, meaning the alfaz, what we call it, the words or the sentences of this particular report. This is one point. The other point is the contents. The content. For example, something came to a report came to you. You are convinced that this is true, but you might differ on what is the meaning. What is the meaning of this information? People might differ because it is open to interpretation, for example. But the nature of the report it is based on conviction that it comes it is a truthful report. But the content, we are in need to analyze. We are in need to analyze the content. So here Al-Imam Al-Taftazani, he is going to explain that khabar mutawatir in terms of its truthfulness in the report, it is conviction, it's based on conviction. But the content of this report, it is the meaning of the content of this report, it is istidlaali. Yani it requires any ponderance and to understand. So here you give any examples in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam after this. So again, we are looking at this difference between the transmission of the report and the truthfulness of the report and the content of how we understand the report. So let us look at what he mentioned. So we are now, basically this is what I summarized just now, which we covered last week. Now we are here. So he said, واإلستداللي. Here he is speaking about khabar mutawatir. For those of you who have the book, and he write this down. He is now, Al-Imam Taftazani now, and he is speaking about mass transmitted reports. He is speaking about mass transmitted reports. So we have a report, and then we look at the content. We look at the content of the report. So he said, هو العلم بمضمونه. He said, what is istidlaali in khabar mutawatir is the content of the report. The report is a truthful report. We got no doubt on the report. But the content requires ponderance because it has certain meanings. هو العلم بمضمونه وثبوت مدلوله. So this is in what you call it in usul al-fiqh, we call it what you call it ad-dalala. Ad-dalala. We have for example qat'iyatul subut and qat'iyatul dalala. So we have khabar mutawatir, but the meaning, the madmun, the content of this khabar can be what you call it dhanni, for example. So it opens into interpretation. Like for example, the Quran is qat'iyatul subut, but many verses in the Quran it is dhanniyatul dalala. That is why the fuqaha they do any ijtihad on the Quran, and they differ on the meanings of the Quran. Despite all of us we have the conviction the Quran is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned wal mutallaqatu yatarabbasna bi anfusihinna thalathata quru, that the women who are divorced, they have to enter into the waiting period, and the length of this waiting period is thalathata quru, 3 quru. So the fuqaha they differ amongst themselves the meaning of quru. What is the meaning? Al-Imam Shafi mentioned for example, he said the meaning of al-qar'u is at-tuhur, whereas Al-Imam Abu Hanifa mentioned it is al-hayd. So it is the same verse in the Quran, the same word in the Quran, but the scholars they differ on the meaning because it is open to interpretation. So this is a kind of istidlaali, that we are in need to ponder upon the contents, the meaning of the content. So Al-Imam Taftazani is saying that you have a report that is mutawatir, but it is istidlaali in terms of understanding the content, that you require some ponderance. So he gave an example of the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he said, "Masalan, qawluhu alayhi salatu wassalam, al-bayyinatu ala al-mudda'i واليمين على من أنكر." So this hadith mutawatir. This particular hadith is narrated by many Sahaba, which it comes into the level of tawaatur, the level of tawaatur, mass transmitted report. So we got no doubt on the words of this hadith that it is from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, based on yaqeen that it is from the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But what is the meaning? What is the meaning? So here, when we are ascribing the meaning of this particular hadith, now this understanding of the meaning, this requires istidlal, it requires ponderance. For example, you heard this hadith and you know that this is any khabar mutawatir. But what is the meaning? What is the meaning of al-bayyinatu ala al-mudda'i wal-yaminu ala man ankar? So when we look at the meaning, for example, and we go back into the books of hadith, and the ulama mention for example, now this is a situation where a person is a file, what you call it, a file is placed against him. For example, someone came to the court and to make a claim that a person owe him some money, for example, and that person he said, no, I didn't owe any money. So now you have this case, this court case, like nowadays we call it the court case. So a person come into the magistrate and make a complaint that Fulan bin Fulan na'udzubillah min zalik, and he did zina, for example, or Fulan bin Fulan steal. So what is the view of Islam based on this hadith? The one who make al-mudda'i, the one who come out and he claim, must bring al-bayyinah. You cannot just go to the magistrate and then say that Fulan bin Fulan is like this, or Fulan bin Fulan he owe me money, or Fulan bin Fulan and he killed that person, or this and that. But what is important is that you must bring the bayyinah. So al-mudda'i, the one who claim must give the evidences. واليمين على من أنكر. And as the one who is convicted, the one who is mentioned we put the blame on, if the mudda'i, the one who claim and he cannot give evidence, then the person just need to swear in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he did not do as what is being mentioned by the one who made the claim. So this is basically the meaning. So to understand the meaning, it requires some ponderance. Just like when I explaining the meaning, it requires some ponderance and the context. Why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying this, what is he referring to, and so on and so forth. So this madmun in Arabic, we call it the madmun or the madlul, the dalala, the meaning of the content. This is istidlal. This is what the Imam Taftazani is saying, that the content of khabar mutawatir is istidlal. It is based on knowledge, that is istidlal. So he said ulama bitawaatur. This particular hadith is known that it is mutawatir. Annahu khabar rasul. So we got no doubt that this is a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this conviction is based on ضروري, because it is mutawatir, and that's what he mentioned. And then ثم علم منه أنه يجب أن تكون البينة على المدعي وهو istidlaali. So when we look at the content of this particular hadith, we know what the hadith is saying is that it is wajib upon the mudda'i, the one who make the claim, to provide the evidence. So this understanding of the content of this particular hadith, it is based on istidlal. It is based on istidlal. Yani we require ponderance to understand what is the meaning of this particular content. So I hope it is clear. So basically what the author is saying, that even a report is mutawatir, so there is a differentiation between the report and the content of the report. It's basically what he is saying. فَإِنْ قِيلَ, if it is said, so this come the format of the Q&A, like the format of the Q&A. So he said that if a person asks, فَإِنْ قِيلَ الْخَبَرُ الصَّادِقُ الْمُفِيدُ لِلْعِلْمِ لَا يَنْحَصِرُ فِي النَّوْعَيْنِ. So if a person asks that truthful reports cannot be just two, there are many, there are more than two. So now here the two types. What are the two types? So we have covered these two. Number one is khabar mutawatir. Number two, khabar rasul al-mu'ayyad bil mu'jizat. Yani reports that are mass transmitted reports. Number two is report of a prophet of God that is aided with miracles to support that claim of prophethood. So if a person say, why only two? Why not more than two? And this person say, bal qad yakunu khabarullahi ta'ala. What about the words of Allah? For example, the Quran, for example, the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or khabarul malak, or the reports of angels. How about the reports of Allah? Why are we not putting it in this category? Why only two? Why not the report of Allah? Why not the report that comes from the angels? Or why not khabar ahlil ijma', the report based on the consensus of the ulama? Why do we not put in this category? So this is number three. Number four, or al khabar al makrun bima yarfa'u al ihtimal al kadhib, or reports that bring about truthfulness because of the impossibility of a person lying. So he gave an example, kal khabar bi qudumi Zayd. when we are told any from someone that Zaid and is coming, عند تسارع قومه إلى داره, when his relatives and his people is going into his house and to welcome him. Although any this report is from one person, but due to the fact we see the actions and your people, like nowadays at the airport and trying to welcome someone who is coming, we have the conviction and this particular person is coming, even though the report that comes to us is from one person. So this is basically the question. The question is basically asking, why are we only being specific into two types of reports, khabar mutawatir and khabar rasul mu'ayyad bil mu'jizat? Why not other kind of reports? What about the reports from Allah, the reports from the angels, the reports based on ijma, and the report of the example that he gave, someone and he tell us that Zaid is coming and we see people trying to welcome him. So we have this conviction also that there is a person by the name of Zaid and he is really coming, because we are seeing people are standing by to welcome him. Why are we not putting this in the category of truthful reports? Then he mentioned, aywa. So now he is the answer comes. Answer from Al-Imam Taftazani. Okay, now we have to pay a bit of attention. So for those who have been following, you will find the words of Al-Imam Taftazani, mashallah, every single word is carefully placed in terms of its meaning. So he said, قلنا, we say or we answer, al-muradu bil khabar. He say what we meant by reports. He now he will speak about what he meant when he said truthful reports. What is this report that we are referring to as truthful? Truthful reports. So he mentioned truthful reports are divided into two, right? Khabar mutawatir and khabar rasul mu'ayyad bil mu'jizat. So he said that what we are referring to this reports that we are referring to, he said khabar yakunu sababul ilmi li'ammatil khalq bimujarradi kaunihi khabaran. So he said that the report that we are that we are concerned with, or what we meant by a report here, it is a report that is general, that carry universal meaning, point number one, and it is solely a report, not because of any other factors. Later on we will give an example. So he is saying we are only speaking about a report as a report. A report as a report. How do we ascertain that this particular report is a truthful report? Without looking at any other factors. We are just looking solely at the report. This is what we meant, he said. This is what we meant. He said ma'aqat'i nadhari 'anil qara'in. So we are not looking at the qarina. We are not looking at the reason behind this report, or the reason that comes with this report, or the context. We are not looking at this, but we are solely focusing on the nature of this report, without taking into consideration the situation around. The situation around. So he said, ma'aqat'i nadhari 'anil qara'inil mufidati lil yaqin bidalalatil aqli. Without taking into consideration the situations surrounding this report that can bring into conviction based on rationality. Based on rationality. Later on we will give the examples that he gave earlier. So now he said, now he explained about the reports from Allah. Why doesn't he include the reports of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this category? So he explains now. For khabarullah, he said, the reports of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or reports from the angels, or khabar malak, innama yakunu mufidan lil ilmi bin nisbati ila ammatil khalqi. He said that the the report of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is in the Quran, and the reports of the angels, he said this is a report that brings about knowledge and benefit to the creations in general. إِذَا وَصَلَ إِلَيْهِمْ مِنْ جِهَةِ رَسُولٍ. If it comes to them from the Prophet. What does it mean? Now, for example, if you ask any the question pertaining to the Quran, for example, is khabar Allah. The Quran is the reports of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Type, how do we get the Quran? How do we get the Quran? The answer is, we get the Quran from our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Meaning, the Quran is revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet read the Quran to the Sahaba. So the Sahaba memorized the Quran, and then the transmission came. Generations after generations after generations. So khabar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it comes through the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that is why Al-Imam Taftazani, he said, we focus on khabar Rasul. Because the khabar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also from khabar of Rasul. Because how we get the khabar of Allah, how we get the Quran, it is through the Rasul. Likewise, any reports of the angels, it is also through the messenger. Because the Rasul, the Prophet, he received revelation. The Prophet receive any revelation. So the khabar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the khabar of malaika, khabar of the angels, these are reports that originate from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet transmit to the common people. So that's how we get the report. So he is saying that we do not include the khabar of Allah and we do not include the khabar of the angels, because this falls under the category of khabar Rasul. It falls under the category of the khabar of Rasul. We get the Quran from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The inspiration of the angels, the revelation that Allah gave to Jibril alayhi salam to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet inform us what happened, his conversation with the angels and so on and so forth, like in the case when he is in the event of Isra wal Mi'raj, and the angel came to him and so on, and Jibril alayhi salam, and all this are based on revelation. So khabar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and khabar of the malaika, it comes from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it is within the point of khabar of Rasul. So that is why Imam Tazani said that we do not include. So this is what he said, إِذَا وَصَلَ إِلَيْهِمْ مِنْ جِهَةِ رَسُولِ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ, because it comes from the direction of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فَحُكْمُهُ حُكْمُ خَبَرْ رَسُولِ. So the ruling of the khabar of Allah and khabar of the angels, حُكْمُ خَبَرْ رَسُولِ, it is the same as the report from the messenger. طيب. This is the first part, when it comes to why we do not include the khabar of Allah and the khabar of the angels. So he answered it. He said, because this is the same as khabar Rasul, because it comes from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a form of revelation. Now he explained about ijma. How about ijma? Before we go into ijma, what he said about ijma, we must understand what is ijma in Islam. Ijma is basically a consensus of the ulama at a particular zaman, particular time. So for example, we have ijma on the obligation of zakah. We have ijma on the obligation of prayers. Also we have ijma, for example, on the obligation of the hijab, for example, ijma on the prohibition of liquor, prohibition of the swine. So these are consensus, we say consensus of the ulama. We also have for example, ijma on the issue of the tarawih prayers, for example, our ulama they call it ijma sukuti, that they prayed 20 rak'ah and they come into a consensus. So these are an examples of ijma in the Islamic tradition. So if a person asks, going back into the question earlier where he quoted, that if a person asks why you do not include ijma as one of the truthful reports, of course ijma is a truthful reports, but why Al-Imam al-Nasafi did not include in the categories of the truthful reports? So he said that as for ijma, fi hukm tawaatur, ijma is under khabar mutawatir. This is what he said. So when it comes to khabar of Allah and khabar of Rasul, it comes under khabar of Allah and khabar of malaika, it comes under khabar Rasul. When it comes to ijma, it falls under what you call it, the category yani of khabar al-mutawatir. Why yani khabar al-mutawatir? After this he will explain why does ijma falls under the category of khabar al-mutawatir. So let me just explain briefly. We have a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet mentioned majtama'at ummati ala dalalah, aw kama qala sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet mentioned that my ummah will not come to a consensus based on falsehood. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying that it is impossible that my nation, my ummah, they agreed upon something and that something is false. It is mustahil. Because of this particular hadith, we say that it is impossible that there is a lie. If the ulama, all of them come to a consensus, of a particular ruling, all of them agree of a particular ruling, and this agreement is something that is false, and for example it turned out to be false, mustahil. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that my ummah will not gather on falsehood. It is impossible. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is protecting the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is why some of our scholars mentioned al-ummatul ma'sumah. This ummah is ma'sumah, meaning protected from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from falsehood, meaning if all of them come together and to believe in something, it is impossible that their belief is based on kadhib, on falsehood. So can you see the similarity between the definition of ijma and the definition of khabar mutawatir? Khabar mutawatir, and we say that it is a report from a large number of people, where it is impossible for all of them to come out with a lie. So there is similarity in ijma and khabar mutawatir. In ijma we say that it is impossible that the scholars of a particular time, all of them, to agree upon something that is based on falsehood. So to come out with a false statement is mustahil. When it comes to khabar mutawatir, because of the numbers, of the great numbers, it is impossible that they come out with something that is a lie. So here the author is saying that al-ijma, it carries the same ruling as khabar mutawatir. This is what he said, wa khabaru ahli al-ijma fi hukm al-mutawatir, fi hukm al-tawatur, that the report of the people based on ijma, ijma al-ulama, it falls under the category of tawaatur. طيب. Then he explained again, وَقَدْ يُجَابُ, some people might not agree, or some people might say, what do they say? بِأَنَّهُ لَا يُفِيدُ بِمُجَرَّدِهِ. Some people might say, but you can have ijma, but it doesn't mean it's mutawatir. For example, you have the ijma ulama of a particular time. Maybe the ulama, for example, they do not come their numbers does not come into a state of mutawatir. Maybe they are not many. Maybe 10 of them. Maybe 15 of them. And all of them states that the ruling of this particular thing is this. And all of them come to a consensus. Come into a consensus. So these are individuals who give their ijtihad, and who says that it is like that. And we find out that there is no one amongst the ulama that disagrees. So there are possibilities that their numbers might not be a lot. But how come we say they are as the same as mutawatir? So Al-Imam Taftazani said, بل بالنظر في الأدلة على كون الإجماع حجة. How we say it is like mutawatir? Because we believe that the evidence of ijma, the ijma as an evidence in Islam, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned majtama'at ummati ala dalala, that if my ummah come into a consensus of particular ruling, then it is not based on falsehood, because of our belief in this particular hadith and in this particular saying. That is why we say the impossibility that a lie can occur, even though the numbers does not reach the level of mutawatir, but the ruling is the same as mutawatir in terms of conviction. So whenever we have dalil of ijma, it is based on yaqeen. It is not based on dhann. It is based on yaqeen. Then he said, qulna, we say qulna wa kadhalika khabar ar-rasul. Likewise, the the reports of the messenger, walihada ja'ala istidlaliyan, the report of the messenger. That is why al-Imam al-Nasafi mentioned that it is istidlaali. Istidlaali, we mentioned that the report of a messenger, when comes to the person who hear the reports initially, because he looks at the report and the miracles, so he is in need to ponder, to come to the conviction that this is a truthful report. So this is based on istidlal. Likewise, when comes to the ijma, also we say it is based on istidlal, by looking at the situations and the agreements of the people of a particular time on a particular ruling. We come to the conclusion that it is a truthful report, based on our belief that it is an evidence in our Islamic tradition. So this is basically the further explanation about the difference between khabar and mutawatir, and the content of khabar al mutawatir. So again, the author is saying that the content of khabar mutawatir, it is istidlaali. It is based on istidlal, whereas the khabar mutawatir in itself, it is ضروري, because of the mass number of people who transmitted the reports. So he mentioned basically, when comes to ijma, it follows the category of mutawatir. It follows the category of mutawatir. So that is why al-Imam al-Nasafi, he mentioned only two when comes to two full reports. Number one is khabar mutawatir. Number two is khabar rasul. Under khabar mutawatir, and it comes in ijma. Under khabar mutawatir, and it comes in ijma. Under khabar rasul comes khabar of Allah, and khabar of the angels. So this is the explanation of so many of the questions that can occur. Then after that, he mentioned as-sababu thalith. So now we have completed the second cause of knowledge, that is khabar as-sadiq, truthful reports. And truthful reports, we spoke about khabar mutawatir and khabar rasul. So in our next lesson, inshallah ta'ala, we will look at the third cause of knowledge. How we attain any knowledge? It is through our intellect that is blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is one of the important parts of this section, to understand about the meaning of the intellect, and some of the explanations mentioned before we go on, inshallah, to the chapter of ilahiyat. So basically, for those who are following, the aqaid of Nasafiyya begins with what we call as epistemology. Epistemology is the field of knowing what we know. So he speaks about asbabul ilm. Before that, he speaks about haqa'iqul ashya. He counters the Sufis who rejected the reality of things. And then he speaks about the causes of knowledge. How do we attain any knowledge? So he spoke about our senses. He spoke about truthful reports. And then he will speak about al-aql. So he began by giving the definition of al-aql. There are so many differences amongst the scholars pertaining to the definition of aql, as you can see. Al-Imam al-Taftazani, he brings these so many of these differences. So of course he mentioned the selected definition, which he will speak after this, and then he also mentioned some other definitions that are mentioned by some scholars. So I think what I think we postpone to next week. So inshallah next week easy for us straight away we enter into al-aql after we summarize some of the things that we have mentioned. So alhamdulillah, I do not know if there is any question. Looks like there is no question, huh? So inshallah we close our majlis. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adhaban nar. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Taqabbalallahu minkum.